Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. We're back with Warhammer Cursed City Nemesis, the second and final expansion in the long and dramatic tale of the Warhammer Quest Cursed City release. So this box is, once again, much like its predecessor, Night Wars, a cardboard-only expansion, including a brand new sort of like sweeping campaign to play through with your Warhammer Quest miniatures, as well as a list of new miniatures to add and rules for them in the game. So the expansion requires a box of Death Rattle Graveguard, Crypt Flares, a White King, a Necromancer, and some Dire Wolves to play through, in addition to the miniatures from Night Wars and the Night Wars expansion. So you're going to need Night Wars and these Citadel miniatures. So you need the Cursed City core game, Night Wars, and the miniatures from Night Wars, and these miniatures, and then you can play through this campaign. So, yeah, it's I'll save my comments about that till the end, but let's go through the actual campaign. So what is it? Well, the Shyish Nadir, the huge, like, looming death cloud of death magic that has been slowly approaching the city, is here. They can't get out. The airship basically is unable to escape. Haven is about to be overrun, and all looks lost for the surviving mortal citizens of Ulfenkarn, until somebody realizes it's actually, what's his name? Grimscry realizes that there's a realm gate in the city. In fact, it's in your Van Alten estates. And Van Alten goes, huh? Because he's been drunk for the entire campaign, and realizes that, you know, his family's got access to all kinds of stuff nobody knew about. And one of his ancestors actually repatriated to Azer at the end of the Great War Chaos. There's a whole thing. There's a whole thing. But basically, Glario's, he's not the most reliable of human beings. And that kicks off a quest to try and evacuate through the Realm Gate. They cannot get the airship out. Dagday almost dies trying to do it, and the quest begins to try and find out where this Realm Gate's actually located in the Van Alten Estates, open it, and then get the surviving citizens out. So there's 3 new mission types: Interrogation, Secure, and Scavenge. The new Doom and Damnation, sort of like, you know, end state, basically calamity counters get accrued, and if you get too many calamity counters, then the game ends. And these interrogation tokens have a flipped and not flipped state. Now, the Nemesis, I'm not going to read too far ahead into the story, because once you finish your first interrogation, basically you're hunting 4 clues, you flip these 4 tokens. That leads to a secure mission, which is the first one is outlined, where you're trying to capture a one of the 3 Van Alten vampire twins, right? The Virgus Nightborn, to find out where the Realm Gate is. And then there's a scavenge decapitation mission, or sorry, a decapitation mission to go and do that. And then you've got your first piece of the puzzle. And you have to do it for all 3 twins, and then once you do, you go and fight to open the Realm Gate and get the citizens out. And that's the end of the quest. So, and you can also scavenge to try and get more stuff in order to power up to do it. You do get new rules for a interrogate ability on 13+. You get new things which are sinkholes that you can fall into. A whole new crisis deck, a whole new extraction event deck, because it's a new like stage basically in the campaign. Exalt tokens. So if you super level out, a hero can gain an Exalt token during the Nemesis campaign. A hero with an Exalt token who undertakes the journey starts inspired. So once you're exalted, you're just always inspired. It's basically the final tier of progression, where you've gotten your secondary like skills cards on top. Like once you've gone past the primary skill cards from the core game, you get the secondary skill cards from the first expansion from Night Wars. Now you become exalted. Once you're exalted, you're just always inspired, and you stay in your inspired side. So that's cool. Some rules for how to bring in the reborn bad guys, so like all the hero models can come back in. Rules for Haven for this campaign as well. And then scavenging and stuff too. So this is scavenge mechanics, interrogation journeys. I don't want to spoil the story, right? But you get crises for all of the stages of the campaign. And then, of course, these are all your decapitations. And it makes Radiger mad. So, things I'm excited about. I'm glad they finished it. I'll be honest, it's so obvious that there was such a cool, just like Blackstone Fortress plan for this, that just got totally derailed. Like the pandemic, global shipping, cardboard printing, The true story, of course, is probably super complicated as to what happened to this Cursed City like program or plan from what it was initially. And while I'm not like, I wish it had gone differently. I understand why, and I'm just I'm happy that I have these. So if I ever do like basically have the ability to like collect all the miniatures and the time to do it, it's because it's not really like a resources thing. It's just it's a lot of miniatures. If it had been dripped out the way Blackstone Fortress was, and in Blackstone Fortress we were painting like 2-3 miniatures per expansion, and you got a piece of the story, and they haven't been able to do that. Because they couldn't do the cardboard and the boxes and the sort of like piece by piece release to the story. They've done 2 big epics at the end. I feel it's kind of like the Hobbit movies, you know what I mean? Where they felt so different from Lord of the Rings because 1, they had to split it into 3 movies, and 2, they had to do a lot of story filling in kind of like the murky parts of the Hobbit book where you know something happened, but you don't really know what happened. This feels like they took what was going to be a more sort of like drawn out storyline with like individual releases. Like things like the father-daughter vampire or witch hunters. We're never gonna have rules for them now in Cursed City, and they're clearly Cursed City miniatures, right? Like things like that where there was clearly supposed to be like you got a box of like, you got a Necromancer in one, maybe a box of Graveguard, or the White King and the Graveguard might have been one expansion. The Necromancer and the Direwolves might have been one expansion. The Crypt Flyers might have been an expansion all by themselves. Kind of like you had the Plague Marines, and you had the Zote, and you had new like followers. Like there was all these like sort of like tiered expansions to the game. It's all just been jammed into one. So there's some criticisms that like, oh my god, it's such a big ask to do this. Well, if you think about it, yes, but it's a big ask all at once. If this had been probably what if it followed the same plan as Blackstone Fortress and had these like smaller box releases, I think we'd be saying the same thing we said about Blackstone Fortress. We're like, oh god, what a great experience what that was over 4 years, slowly collecting this awesome collection of miniatures and playing through all these campaigns to this final showdown with this Chaos Lord on the Blackstone Fortress and how that tied into everything. And I think what happened was, I'm not going to guess what happened. I don't want to say what happened was. Obviously, that plan for Blackstone Fortress didn't get duplicated here. And so it feels very different. But I am grateful that we got the story, even if the story had to be kind of repackaged in this way, so that I can eventually, hopefully, maybe with the kids, maybe with you guys, I don't know when, go through and actually complete the whole Cursed City Warhammer Quest campaign. Because like, it did so much right. The art style's incredible. The miniatures are just phenomenal, right? For the miniatures that came in the box. It is an absolute labor of love in a bunch of respects. And I feel like the force majeure of like just the way the world's been the last 2 years turned it into definitely not the same kind of experience we got from Blackstone Fortress. And I think it's that difference that's the biggest criticism, not what these individual products are. So if you're a huge Warhammer Quest fan, you want to complete your collection, you get the whole story in these 2 supplements. The miniatures are going to be in the range for a while, right? There's nothing here that's like a Cursed City only miniature, like Graveguard, Crypt Flayers, White Kings, Necromancers, and Direwolves aren't going anywhere. So, you'll be able to pick up those models and play this game over time. So if you're a completionist and you want the whole thing, definitely grab this. I'm glad I have a copy, and big thanks to Workshop for sending it along for me to review. Obviously, I don't have the miniatures, so I'm not going to be playing it anytime soon. I have the Direwolves. I have them painted even. I do have Crypt Flayers. I could paint up some of those. I don't have a box of Graveguard. I don't have a White King. I don't have a Necromancer. So to go along with all the stuff I don't have from Night Wars too, right? So it's going to take some time, obviously, for me to get this stuff together. Maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. In the meantime, it didn't cheapen my experience in the Cursed City core game, so I'm happy that they got to finish it. And more than that, I'm happy that might mean we get another Warhammer Quest game as things are starting to cycle back to normal. That's more like the experience we got from Blackstone Fortress, either in this universe or back into the 40k universe. I'd be pumped for a 40k one. I'd be really pumped for a Horus Heresy one. Like, just get the Quest team onto something new. This is done now. It is what it is. We can't really go back in time and change the fact that the world is a very different place than it was in 2019. when this is probably being worked on initially. And yeah, and here's hoping that we see more cool solo and cooperative play, tabletop board games with incredible miniatures, beautiful art, and, you know, a real labor of love that this box obviously was going to be, and that we've seen in the past from the same team that does all of these games. So I still have a lot of faith in the artists and the writers and the designers behind this stuff, and I'm glad they got to finish the thing they made and get it out there into the world. Is it going to be for everybody? Probably not, because I think from a consumer point of view, having that sort of like box by box experience is way better commercially for most people. Go buy a $50 box and play for a couple weekends, you know what I mean, to get through that next stage of a campaign. That sort of like stage by stage content, subscription almost based content, I think is more consumable to people. But I have a lot of empathy for the people who make this stuff, and I love the job they did on the art, the feel of the game, the leveling up design, which is way better than the one in Blackstone Fortress. The miniatures are incredible. So for them, not even just for us as consumers, for the people that made it, I'm so happy they got to see what they made finished and out in the world, because I have empathy for game designers and people who make things. And I feel like this project could have been such a tentpole for Games Workshop, and for the designers who worked on it. And I know as a designer, I would have been incredibly disappointed not having the full sort of like experience, or the full run that something like Blackstone Fortress had, if that was the original plan, and have it turn to this. But I still think they did a great job of tying it up and providing what was sort of like the full story, basically, so that people can play through it in the future. So Cursed City, it's got a very colorful sort of like I guess timeline and story now, but I'm glad that we can move on hopefully now to talking about and reviewing and playing whatever the next Warhammer Quest game is, because I think they fill such a valuable niche for Games Workshop in their design studio and design space. I want more Warhammer Quest. I don't care if it's Cursed City or not. Let's have this conversation be done and come on to whatever the next thing is. So there it is. Big thanks for watching. I'll see you for more GMG reviews in the future. Then I'm Ash. Up gaming. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My two kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continue to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.